Hello everyone, allow me to welcome you to the second episode of the Dr. Kabani podcast. The last time we were here, we had a great time talking about relationships and friendship in general and how friendship impacts your life's trajectory. What you achieve, what you aspire to do in this life will heavily be determined and affected by the friends that you keep around and who you decide to become your friend. Now, I should mention that the first series of our episodes on this podcast will actually focus on issues around relationships, because any person that has been to the top understands the power of relationships and how they shape who you become, what you attain in this life, and ultimately where you are going to end in this life. So we will continue for a few more episodes to discuss the impact of friendship on what you achieve. And for this episode, we are going to dive into the different types of friendship that are there for you to clearly understand what they are and how they can affect what you become and what you attain. Many people lacking this knowledge have often found themselves going in circles or sometimes rising to the top and quickly descending down for the simple reason that they did not pay attention to the kind of associates, friends, acquaintances that they had around them. So this time around, we'll discuss 3 types of friendship that you can actually find yourself in. And we'll derive this from what we observe in nature. One of the things that I do in my time is actually to observe nature, because by learning about nature, you get to understand and pick up life lessons that you can actually apply to change your life. When you read much of the Bible and what you find in there, you're going to realize that over and over, whether it's Jesus teaching, whether it's David writing or Solomon, all these great people that are recorded actually in the Bible would pick lessons from nature and apply them in the lessons they would teach. So today we are going to pick a lesson from nature about relationships. And this is something that we observe in microorganisms. Now, the word micro means small. So when I say microorganisms, we are talking about very small living things that you actually can't see with your own eyes. Very small things that you can't see with your own eyes. Now, those that have done studies in biology and in microbiology have come across a term which is called symbiosis. This term called symbiosis speaks about a long-term relationship between 2 different organisms. So when 2 organisms have a relationship for long, that is called symbiosis. Now, the relationship of symbiosis actually has 3 different paths that it can take. So we have one line of symbiotic relationships that we call parasitism. We have another line of symbiosis that we call commensalism. We have another line of symbiosis that we call mutualism. Now, these are not very complex terms. I'm going to explain them. So I want you to follow very closely. I've highlighted that when 2 organisms share a relationship for long, that relationship is called symbiosis. And symbiosis can take up 3 forms. The first form is called parasitism, or parasitism. The second form is called commensalism. The third form is called mutualism. These are real-time relationships that happen among organisms. They can happen among even big organisms and the very small organisms. And I should mention that, unfortunately, these relationships are not only exclusive to these small microorganisms, they can also happen in the human being to human being relationship. Any person that understands this concept will soon realize that relationships of human beings can take up on any of these three forms. There are people that are in commensalism or commensalistic relationships. There are people that are into mutualistic or mutualism kind of relationships. And there are people that are in parasitic kind of relationships. So let's define these terms and then see how we apply them. Because of these three types of relationship, only one is commendable for you. You stand to be disadvantaged in life. You stand to be slowed in your journey to what you want to attain if you will use any of these relationships except one that I'm going to recommend. Let's begin with parasitism. What is parasitism? Parasitism or parasitism is a relationship of two organisms in which one organism benefits from the other. And not only does it benefit from the other, it causes harm to the other. So we see this relationship, for example, between ticks and mammals. So a tick and a cow. The relationship is a parasitic one. The tick continues to benefit from the cow. The cow does not benefit from the tick, and the tick will ultimately cause disease in the cow. That is a parasitic relationship. Then we have a commensal or commensalism kind of relationship in which we find organisms that are called commensals. So right now, for you as a human being, you have actually some of these commensals occupying your body. For example, in your digestive system, you may find in there bacteria that does not harm you, but it just lives in there. We call them commensals. So a commensal relationship or commensalism is where an organism benefits from another organism. Two organisms are in a relationship. One benefits from the other, but the other does not benefit from the other one. And the one that benefits does not cause harm to the other. That's why I'm saying in your digestive system, you have some bacteria there that actually benefits from the food that you are eating. It also feeds from the food, but does not cause you any problem. Such kind of bacteria are called commensals. They cause you no harm, but they give you no benefit, but they only benefit from you. That's a commensal kind of relationship. Then we have mutualism. Mutualism is a kind of symbiotic relationship in which two organisms are in a relationship and they are of benefit to each other. So one benefits from the other and the other benefits from the other. This is a kind of relationship that we see, for example, between bees and flowers. So when you look at the relationship of bees and flowers, the bee helps pollinate the flowers. As it is moving from one flower to the other, collecting nectar, which benefits the bee is equally accidentally carrying pollen and moving it from one flower to the other, causing pollination so that the flowers actually can turn into fruit. So the relationship of a bee and a flower is a mutualistic relationship that benefits both organisms. So the bee benefits the flower by pollinating it so that it actually can bear fruit. At the same time, the bee is benefiting, or the flower is benefiting the bee by giving it nectar, which the bee needs to make its honey.
Such is a mutualistic or mutualism kind of relationship. Now, we rarely pay attention to the kind of friends that we have in our lives. Many of us just befriend people, and we are often not keen to audit the relationships that we have. I've said it over and over again that especially at the beginning of your year or at the end of the year, courtesy of the fact that this is January, you must always find time to sit and audit the relationships that you have, the people you call friends. And if you may not understand what this means, watch the previous podcast. In there, you're going to realize that I addressed the issue of how you should segment or stratify your friends. There should be those that are in your inner circle, those that are in the middle circle, those that are in the outer circle. That's how you should segment people. Those you should call friends in the inner circle. There are certain things that they should be able to do to qualify to be in that inner circle. Now, why is this important? It's because your vulnerability in life is to the extent of the people that you have kept in your inner circle. The people that you have kept in your inner circle determines how vulnerable you are. They actually determine how quickly you rise or how quickly you fall. Many people that have risen have done so, as seen in the previous episode where I addressed this. Many people that rose to the top, it is because of the kind of friends that they had. So we gave examples such of Henry Ford and Thomas Edison. That was a good relationship that saw both of them actually rise. Okay? We saw one of them literally get down, Thomas Edison, when his laboratory got burned. But his friend Henry Ford came in and bailed him out. That is a mutualistic kind of relationship that is beneficial to both ends. And we gave many such examples of friendship that was mutualistic. Now, as seen from the definitions that I've given you here, it means you must decide whether the friends you have around you, the kind of relationship you have is parasitic, it is commensal, or it is mutualistic. Okay? If you are too busy with life that you don't pay attention to this, you will realize very late that you could have been, and these relationships sometimes can even be love relationships. There are love relationships where the relationship of this boyfriend and girlfriend or husband and wife is a parasitic one. And that is why certain people, the very day they decided to marry is the very day their progress came to a halt. And after that, it was a downward spiral, everything going down, because the person that they decided to onboard as a wife or a husband was a parasite who comes to benefit but does not bring any benefits to the table. So many people regret the day they said I do, because the relationship or the marriage that came out of that was parasitic. And if you are not smart and wise enough to gauge whether the person you are dating and courting is one who will turn into a parasite, a commensal, or a mutualistic person, you may end up with a parasite for a husband or a parasite for a wife. And unfortunately, they will drain you. They will drain you of your dreams. They will drain you of your energy. They will drain you of your happiness. They will drain you of your finances. They may even drain you of your health. Because this is a person who is continuously taking. If you have ever found yourself in a relationship where one person is continuously taking but not giving, that is a parasitic relationship. And some of you are in relationships where your friend is ever asking. They're ever asking for money, but they have never given you money. They are ever asking to be supported in what they're doing. They have never supported you. They are ever asking to use your things. You can't use their things. That is a parasitic friend. And just like we see in the natural world how parasites ultimately will cause the disease that will kill the host, that is exactly what is going to happen with you. Your dreams will die because you have been carrying a parasite. You may ultimately physically die because you have been carrying a parasite. So beware of parasitic relationships. But also somebody might say, what of commensal relationships? Yes, there are also commensal relationships with human beings. Now, commensal relationships are such relationships of mentor and protege. Okay? So you are a mentor and you are mentoring somebody. They benefit from the mentorship that you are giving them. And yet, they may have very little to offer you. So the mentor does not benefit, but the mentee is benefited. That is a commensal relationship. Now, these relationships are equally encouraged because sometimes these people that may benefit from us as mentees, who may not give us very much, over time, only God knows what they may turn out to be. So these are more of generosity relationships, okay, where you are deciding to help this person who is benefiting from you through mentorship or any other means, and they may turn out good. The difference between the parasitic and the commensal relationship is that oftentimes people that are parasitic are manipulative. They actually play it so smart that you do not realize that they are parasitic in nature and they're benefiting from you and harming you. These are people who will ask for things from you, but behind your back, they are saying things that are disadvantageous to your reputation, to the person that you are. You are shocked doors are closing, and they are closing because you are being betrayed by somebody who has benefited from you, or somebody who is actually benefiting from you. Any person that has been to the top understands this. We have had people we have mentored before, people we have helped before, who have actually turned out to go around bad mouthing, going around saying stuff that is disadvantageous to you as a person. Okay? Or later on, they are fine and you ask for help, they don't come through. These are parasitic people. And you need to see their nature right from the beginning for who they are, so that you keep them at arm distance. Because the closer you bring them, the danger they are to who you are, to your dreams, to your aspirations, and everything that you want to achieve. So be wary of parasitic kind of individuals. Now, I should mention that when we come to the commensals are benefiting from you, but it's a relationship that you know and understand that this person is benefiting, I'm helping them this way, and the person is causing you no harm. There's no financial harm they're causing by benefiting from you. There's nothing, but they're benefiting. And I've talked about a kind of a relationship like mentorship. The person is not asking for money. The person is not asking for your physical stuff, for assets or anything like that, but the person is benefiting from you. These are relationships that are good and important. If you have self-actualized, you have gotten to the top, okay, you have an obligation towards mentoring and assisting other people to get to the top. Just be sure that you are dealing with people that are not parasitic as you are doing so. And I should also mention that if we were to allocate time to all these relationships, the commensal or parasitic relationships should not take much of your time, because your benefit from them is not guaranteed. Your benefit from them is not actually guaranteed. However, we have the third type of relationships that we talked about, and that is the mutualistic kind of relationship. And this is what we are advised to have for relationships. Even the Bible says iron sharpens iron. That is the kind of relationship that should be there. A mutualistic or mutualism relationship is the kind of relationship in the Bible that we saw between David and Jonathan. David benefited from the protection of Jonathan as his father Saul wanted to harm him. But at the same time, it is David that protected the leaders of Jonathan and his father when they were dead. So it was a mutualistic kind of relationship. Okay? So mutualistic relationships that are beneficial to both organisms is what you should focus on. What does that mean? It means even you equally, if you want to benefit much from relationships, learn to invest in the relationships. Immediately you want much from a relationship which you are not investing in. You are a parasite and you should be avoided. We often are able to see how people are of no benefit to us, but rarely have the insight to see how of no benefit we are to others. So we are often in the habit of complaining about how others have manipulated us and used us and been of no benefit, and what kind of ingrates they are, ungrateful and all that. But I should also mention that there's a possibility that many of us lack the ability of self-introspection and self-reflection to actually realize that much as you might accuse other people of being parasitic, you could be parasitic yourself. And sometimes why we don't find people that are very beneficial coming close to us, it is because they have also realized that we are parasitic in nature. So in a mutualistic relationship, which is the kind of relationship that you should foster, that you should nurture, and that you should hunt for, you want to be of benefit to the person that you also want to get benefits from. So that is what we should have. Mutualism in terms of relationship. Mutualistic kind of relationships benefit both parties that are there. They are healthy. They are uplifting. Both parties are encouraged, supported, strengthened, and it is beneficial to both sides. So two close friends who push each other to grow spiritually, emotionally, professionally, financially. That is what a mutualistic relationship looks like. If it is in a marriage relationship, this is where the wife helps the husband, supports the husband emotionally, physically, spiritually, and in any other way. And equally, the husband works to support the wife. And these are the winning couples that you often call power couples. They have understood the power of mutualism. Okay? They have understood the power of mutualism. They are there to support each other. And this works very well. Proverbs chapter 27 verse 17 tells us that iron sharpens iron and one man sharpens the other. That is exactly what it must be. You must be in a relationship where you are sharpening your friends, you're sharpening your wife, you're sharpening your girlfriend, and they are sharpening you too. That's what a healthy relationship must look like. Now, I'll wind it by giving you some examples, especially today I'll end it by talking about more on the parasitic type of relationships, which are very toxic, because the parasitic type of relationships often end in betrayal. They often end in betrayal. So we see examples of this. We see the example of the relationship of Judas and Jesus. Judas was benefiting from Jesus. Actually, he was the accountant of the group. But the guy ended up betraying Jesus. He was parasitic. So parasitic kind of relationships end in betrayal. We see the relationship of Samson and Delilah. Parasitic relationship. Samson loved Delilah so much, and he did not realize the manipulation and the parasitism. Just when she was enticed to be given a little money, well, she sold Samson, and off went Samson, betrayed. Okay? That is a parasitic relationship. Yeah? And we see many others. Alexander the Great, okay, was betrayed by his generals. Parasitic kind of relationship. Napoleon Bonaparte was betrayed by Marshal Ney. Parasitic kind of relationship. Even in modern history, we see many examples of these kind of relationships. People that seem like they like you, and yet they are parasitic. They often betray and lead to the death of the person. So we know how Abraham Lincoln was betrayed by John Booth, who at some point was an admirer, actually, of Abraham Lincoln, but is the guy who ended up assassinating him in 1865. We see how Mahatma Gandhi was betrayed by Natharam Goods. Okay? This was a former supporter who believed in him, but 1948, this is the guy exactly who assassinated Mahatma Gandhi. We see John F. Kennedy betrayed by Lee Harvey. Now, Lee Harvey was a former Marine and an American citizen who believed in the dream, but 1963 assassinates John F. Kennedy. Well, Muammar Gaddafi here in Africa, we know very well that he was betrayed by his inner circle. And we saw him in 2011 literally killed. And you can read, the stories are endless right here in Congo. And we pray that, God comes through, but that also we help the people of Congo. But we see that the history of Congo, Patrice Lumumba right in there, was betrayed by his very best friend. He's the one who sold him, and ultimately he got assassinated. And I wind it by a story of a man who we may all know. His name, Julius Caesar. Now, some of you might not know who Julius Caesar was, but a lot has been said about Caesar. So some of you know of the common phrase that is cited from what Jesus Christ said to say, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. And I've heard a lot around this. I think I have also heard a song that has been done by one of the secular musicians, says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Who is this Caesar that we have often talked about? Other than knowing that he was found in the very time that Jesus Christ lived, Caesar was a very powerful Roman general. He was a very powerful Roman general. He expanded the kingdom of Rome, and he went on ruling over, bringing in new territories such as what is modern day France and Belgium. So he was a great guy. Now, you'd understand that Rome had a system of governance which was called a republican. So a republic. So Rome did not have a king. Rome had senators that administrated over the whole kingdom of Rome. Different senators that were running different parts of Rome. Now, Caesar begins to rise as a very powerful general. He becomes a consul, which was the highest position that you could be elected to within the Roman Republic. But because of his ambition and aggression, some of the senators began to feel that Caesar was a danger. And they began to think that maybe one of these days he would want to consolidate his power and make himself king over Rome. Now, Rome had decided that it would run as a republic and it would not have a king, because they saw all the disadvantages that came with having a king who could turn himself into a dictator and literally run everybody as he pleases. So many of these guys felt intimidated by this ambitious Roman general by the name of Julius Caesar. By the way, Caesar was powerful. That is the person who reoriented the calendar. And you know that the calendar we use today, some of you often hear that this 30-day calendar we are using is a Greco-Roman calendar. It's a Roman calendar. It is Caesar that led to this kind of calendar that we are actually using today. So Caesar has had a very huge impact in your life and in my life, like it or not. If you are talking about January, February, March, April, May, up to December, you are simply acknowledging the impact that Caesar has had in your life. Unfortunately, this great guy, Caesar, was assassinated on the 15th of March, 44 BC. Now, he gets assassinated. Question: how did the great Caesar, who conquered all these nations, who was a powerful guy, brought reforms in the Roman Empire or the Roman Republic, how did this guy get assassinated? Now, Caesar had a friend by the name of Brutus. Caesar had a very close friend by the name of Brutus. And Brutus was a protege of Caesar. In other words, Caesar mentored Brutus and he became his friend. Now, Brutus was also a senator, just like Caesar was a senator. But Causas, who was one of the senators that was very scared of Caesar, began to go around convincing the other senators to say, we need to do away with Caesar. We need to kill him. We need to assassinate him, because if we don't, he is going to become king. He wants to make himself king. And when he becomes a king, he is going to oppress every one of us. And he went around convincing everyone. And one of the last people that he spoke to actually was Brutus. And unfortunately, many scholars are debating whether Brutus agreeing to betray his close friend Caesar was out of him being patriotic to the republic, or it was out of just jealousy and betrayal. That debate still goes on. But what we know is that one day these senators descended on Caesar and they began to stab him, and they stabbed him to death. And when Caesar looked at the people that were stabbing him to death, one of the guys that was stabbing him was Brutus. And Caesar exclaimed in Latin, "Et tut brut." And that phrase in Latin, which is "et tut brut," is interpreted in English that when Caesar was dying, his last moments was a shock to see that on the people that were stabbing him to death was his best friend, Brutus. So the interpretation of that Latin phrase, "et tut brut," is that even you also brute. Even you brute. Meaning, yes, I understand these other guys were my competitors. These other guys are my enemies. These other guys are envious of me. These other guys don't like me. I know that. So I'm not shocked that they are here stabbing me to death. But even you, brute, my close friend, my best friend, my brother, my protege, you are also among the people that are stabbing me to death. And today that Latin expression is used wherever betrayal appears. Et tut brut. So I'm going to say the same today. That don't die the death of Caesar because you do not have time to sit and analyze the friends around you, whether they are the Brutus of today. I should mention that some of you in your circles, you are keeping Judas Iscariot, who will betray you. Some of you in your circles, you are carrying Brutus, who will betray you. And literally when Caesar was killed, the republic was never consolidated. The civil war arose, and that saw the kingdom going down. So the question is, when you look through the circle of friends that you actually have, who are your friends? Are they parasites? Are they commensals? Or they are beneficial friends that are mutualistic in their approach to life? In 2025 and going forward, approach life with the wisdom of understanding that iron must sharpen iron. And I do not mean that you should find friends. You do not have to be in the same social strata for you to be beneficial to each other. No, you don't have to. You don't have to be in the same social strata to be beneficial to each other. It is possible for a poor person to be of benefit to a rich person. It is possible for a person with a very humble education to be of benefit to a person highly educated. No one should play victim and every time wanting to be helped. There are many ways. I'll give you an example. Well, here is a rich person that you benefit from because he gives you things. You can benefit him by volunteering your muscles in terms of hard work to go and work at some of the projects that he does. That's a mutual relationship between two people of a different strata. Do not be manipulated by people that present misery as a ticket to friendship. Don't be manipulated. It is actually possible. I have seen watchmen who are beneficial to their bosses. They can come and arrive with a little gift of a watermelon, with a little gift of some groundnuts and say, "Boss, I got you this from our little farm, from our little field." That is a person who demonstrates a mutualistic relationship. The other one is a boss. He pays him a salary and everything, but you can see the appreciation of this person, and he brings some little groundnuts in a paper bag or anything like that. Okay? So it is possible even for people of a different strata to be beneficial to each other. You don't have to be at the same level. The issue of being mutually beneficial has nothing to do with how much one has. It is an issue of attitude, mental disposition, and an issue actually of the heart. It is an issue of morality. It is an issue of integrity. It is an issue of character. There are people whose character is manipulative, whose character is draining, whose character is greedy. They go in relationships to take and take and take. And ultimately, they will take your dreams and take your life. But you need to find yourself around people that have a heart that believes that to whom much is given, much will be required. As they receive, they are also giving. As they receive, they are also giving. So what you are getting is a symbiotic, mutualistic relationship, beneficial to both parties. It is this kind of marriages that get to the top. It is this kind of courting that gets to the top. It is this kind of friendship that gets to the top. So as you push through your year of 2025 and beyond, ensure the people you keep in your circle are mutualistic, not merely commensal, and not parasitic. I wish you the best, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode as we continue to dissect issues around personal development, education, entrepreneurship, and life in general on how you can get yourself to the top. So in the words of Zig Ziglar, I'll say, see you at the top and see you in the next episode. This has been Dr. Kabani speaking to you. Bye-bye for now.